Let me start here. If your job search felt manageable at first, and then somewhere along the way, it started to feel heavy, not dramatic, not a crisis, just harder to keep showing up the same way, this conversation's for you. Because that shift, it's not random and it's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's usually a sign that the way you're searching isn't built for how long this actually takes or for the life you're living alongside it. Most mid-career professionals don't expect a job search to be easy, but almost no one is prepared for how draining it really becomes. Not because they're not trying, not because they've lost confidence or capability, but because the search quietly lasts a lot longer than their energy model was built for. So here's the data I want you to really understand to kind of put this in context. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the typical mid-career job search right now is around 11 to 13 weeks. And if you're translating that to months, 3 months. And the average, which is interesting, is closer to 6 months. And that gap really matters because it tells us something important. This isn't primarily an effort problem. There's an endurance issue to this. And most people build their search as if it's a sprint and then blame themselves when it turns into a marathon. By the time you're searching seriously at mid-career, you're not doing it in a vacuum. You're carrying a job that still expects performance, family or personal responsibilities that don't go on pause, and energy that's different than it was 10 years ago. So the search gets squeezed in wherever it fits. Late nights, between meetings, weekends that were supposed to restore you. At first, it feels reasonable. Then it starts to cost a little more than you expected. You miss a few days, you feel a little behind, you stay busy but aren't sure what actually moved. You tweak your resume again, hoping clarity shows up after one more edit, one more pass. And you hesitate to tell people you're looking because you don't yet have the language for where you're headed. And then a week will go sideways. Deadlines, illness, family stuff, or hey, this week, blizzard. It starts to feel like evidence that you're failing at this. But none of that means you lack discipline. It means you're running a process that assumes ideal conditions in a season of life where ideal conditions are, let's face it, rare. I felt this very clearly this week. We had that major snowstorm where I live, and by Monday morning, the schools were closed. Virtual learning started late. Like, son couldn't log into his computer, childcare shut down, and the day didn't resemble the plan that I had in any meaningful way. And in the past, a day like that would have wiped out anything that wasn't urgent, including work that actually mattered, things I needed to make progress on. But now it doesn't. Not because the day wasn't calm, not because the day was calm. It it was not at all. And not because I powered through. I definitely did not. It worked because I wasn't relying on how the day felt to decide what happened. You see, I run a weekly system and a monthly system that already answers a few quiet questions. What actually needs to move this week? What can flex when life interrupts? What still counts as progress on a messy day? So when the schedule collapsed, there was no emotional negotiation, no, I'll catch up later, no silent self-judgment, no decision fatigue about where the day was shot. Did things happen the way I originally planned? Nope. Did they still happen? Yes. And that's the difference most people miss. The professionals who make it through long, competitive job searches aren't the most motivated. They're the ones whose approach still works on imperfect weeks. When I work with clients, we don't start with applications. We start by building a structure that can hold. And here's the map I use. Maybe not, every single piece of it, but high level so you could really get started. So first, we separate strategy from activity. Most people ask, what should I be doing this week? A better question is, what's this phase of my search meant to produce, right? Am I just collecting a list of targeted companies? Am I trying to figure out who in my network I should have conversations with? Am I doing active applications? Am I tailoring? Really, what phase am I in? And what's the outcome that I'm looking to get to? And that's really key. Second, defining non-negotiable progress. the smallest set of actions that still count as motion forward, even on a light week. So this is the if all else fails, this is what happens on a Monday. If all else fails, this is the minimum that happens before I lay my head down at night on a Wednesday. And really thinking through what are those non-negotiables? What does progress really look like in the context of what's my search really meant to produce? Third, we designed this around low capacity days. So lighter versions of high impact work, defaults that remove decision fatigue, clear if then choices when life intervenes, right? So we're not designing this in an ideal space. We're talking what's the bare minimum that keeps us in motion, that doesn't burn us out, and that accounts for the fact that some days are just going to be a mess and way too busy. And so what does that look like? And what is something that you really can commit to every day, every week, whatever that looks like in the system that you design for yourself? And then fourth, choose review points instead of constant reevaluation. Define moments to assess what's working and permission to stay the course in between. So instead of you trying something, adjusting, like this is the mistake we all make. We do a little and then we try something different and then we try something different. And this is basically giving yourself a sprint, right? What am I going to do for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, and see what my results are? And then let's change the course of action if I need to, or if I'm not getting those results that I really said I wanted to get in that non-negotiable progress that I said in step 2. And so that helps us create just a steady rhythm of where am I trying to go? What's my goal right now? How am I making sure that I know what clear progress looks like for me? Let me design that around my lowest capacity days so that I know that I can be successful. And then reviewing that system in a periodic manner rather than off the cuff when our feelings fluctuate up and down. This really creates that steadiness. And that's what you want for long-term success when you're talking a longer job search. Most people underestimate how long that job search really may take, and the overestimation of how long they can sustain the effort without the system. So when the search stretches, the emotional cost starts to compound, right? We start to second guess ourselves, we get that quiet self-judgment, constant recalibration, and eventually capable people start wondering if they're the problem. Spoiler alert, it's not you. You're just running a process that was never designed for the life you're living now. The goal of a strategic job search isn't speed at all costs, it's consistency without burnout. So progress keeps accumulating even when the weeks aren't perfect. That's what keeps people in the game long enough to land roles that actually fit. And that's what's key in this hyper competitive market, right? That's what combats all of that scary sounding stuff that's happening in the market of people taking months and months and months to land jobs. You've got to set expectations and the system around that. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, this feels a little bit bigger than just fixing my resume or finding the right job boards, you're right. And this is exactly why I created Your Next Role Accelerator program. It's a small group coaching cohort for mid-career professionals who want a clear job search strategy, steady execution, and leadership support that actually matches this stage of life. We just finished up a cohort a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to see the progress that group made. And we're kicking off the next cohort at the end of next week. So Friday the 6th, a week from today, at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we are kicking off the next 6-week cohort. Links will be down below in the notes to check out what all's involved in that and what that really looks like. But if you want to explore that kind of support without any pressure, you can check out all those details. No rush. And if you have any questions or you want to have a conversation with me, happy to do that. I just want to steady your way forward for you when you're ready to do that. So if that's right now, because you know that you're looking, you know you've got a new job, join this cohort. There will be one later. There are a few throughout the year, but if you know you're looking, the earlier you get started, the better, especially when we're talking about the cycles of the job market. So for now, I hope that you have a great rest of your week and finish out this Friday really well and hopefully a little bit warmer than how we started it if you're afflicted by this big winter storm. And I really hope that you, as always, put down the popcorn and get in the game.